What is going on, guys? Paul Ryan back at it again. I hope everybody had a good weekend as we're gearing up for a new week. And starting next week, of course, is the NFL season. But sticking with the Cowboys, the only story that I saw today that I want to say is, I guess if you want to call it worth mentioning, we'll say that, kind of a, not disturbing, I don't even want to say troubling. I don't know if it even goes that far, but bothersome, I guess, if you want to call it that, was talking about Mike Zimmer and his last days with the Vikings, really his last season. And I first caught wind of this story when there was a quote by Kellen Mond, the quarterback who was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, saying that he actually had never spoke to Mike Zimmer. They never talked, not even once. They didn't have a relationship at all. And I remember Mike Zimmer's comments about Kellen Mond when, I guess, this is around the time I imagine it was Kirk Cousins had been injured or something like that, had to have been. And they asked Zimmer about about Kellen Mond starting, or why doesn't he get to play? And I remember Mike Zimmer saying, I've seen him practice. That's why, something along those lines. And, you hear your coach talk about a player like that, man. That's, you don't hear it too often about coaches just throwing their players under the bus like that, or, kind of making those bold statements about a player like that. Usually they're, show a little bit more respect, but I guess it was pretty serious because I was reading an article about Zimmer's last days in Minnesota. I guess kind of Zimmer's side of the story, if you will, and Terrance Newman, former cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, who played for Zimmer in Cincinnati and in Minnesota, and who was actually one of his assistant coaches at the time. He was there for Mike Zimmer's last year in Minnesota, and he said that Mike Zimmer's time there was toxic. It was a toxic culture, and when Mike Zimmer caught wind of that, apparently he'd spoke to Terrance Newman, and Terrance Newman said that's how he felt, and Mike Zimmer kind of ended their relationship, or not kind of. He said that we're done and that their relationship was over. Now, I don't know if they fixed it since then or not, but I don't know, man. I'm not trying not to make too much of this story. Hopefully, when you're kind of your last days at a workplace, things like that, and things aren't going well, because, that last season, Zimmer got fired instead of the GM. I'm sure things can take a turn for the worse. Sometimes they do, right? And I don't want to hold this against Zimmer, but those are things that you hope won't carry on to his time here in Dallas, right? I know you look at Dak being on a one-year deal, Mike McCarthy being on a one-year deal. If the Cowboys don't get off to a strong start, if they have a losing record, things could kind of become toxic, right? There could be some division in the locker room. I know we saw that in 2019 with Jason Garrett in the Cowboys locker room when, we had a lot of expectations when Kellen Moore took over the offense, and we were all excited about that, but things just didn't go our way, and there was some issues with leadership in the locker room. There was division in the locker room, and it was kind of like almost like a dead man walking. With, I believe Garrett was on his last year of his deal, heading into the 2020 season, but in 2019 he was on the last year of a deal that he had signed, I believe, after the 2016 season, I believe it was, or maybe 2018, I'm not sure. But I remember it kind of being a similar situation, and you hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, that was just something I found interesting, wanted to share with you guys for those of you who haven't seen it. Outside of that, I didn't have a whole lot. I did see Bucky Brooks. He was talking about his, I don't know, I can't remember if it was his X Factor players or 3 players to keep an eye on for the Cowboys. Pretty common names, though: CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, and Micah Parsons. That was an interesting read there, but nothing new to hear about those guys. So I didn't feel the need to share that article with y'all. But outside of that, that's all I've got for you guys. Again, I hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm Paul Ryan. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.